Alright guys, so in this video I just wanted to go through some different perspective photos of the Lower Manhattan Financial District skyline and kind of talk about the differences. There's been three main different skylines. You had the original skyline, which did include the Twin Towers beginning in the 1970s. Then you had, after 2001, kind of a bare bones skyline with really no skyscrapers. And then the new One World Trade Center went up along with a bunch of other buildings. And there's kind of an interesting contrast I wanted to show because it is a unique thing. But the other thing I wanted to talk about, just looking at this perspective photo of Ground Zero, you can see both of where the towers were, both of the waterfalls and kind of the base area, the block. That's actually smaller. It's a smaller footprint than how wide the towers actually were. So, I mean, it looks pretty big, and to think it's even bigger than that. But if anyone's wondering where the plaza was, if you see the little museum right there, that is where the plaza, the main center of the plaza would be. You can actually see to the right of it the new mall, the Oculus, which kind of comes out from the ground. That's in the shot as well. And then if you're wondering where the Marriott World Trade Center would be, or the 3 World Trade Center, like it's right where that grassy area would be with all those trees, because it was kind of hidden in between both of the towers. Just kind of an interesting thing in terms of the perspective on that. But then there are multiple photos. You can see the top, obviously, with the Twin Towers, the bottom without it. The bottom just looks like, you don't want to say like Cleveland, Ohio or Detroit, but it does look a lot just less vibrant without both of the towers up. And then these are shots like right after the attacks. You can see the subway completely coated, and then going down where it is, that was it a decade later. So basically 10 years after it, you can see a brand new building going up right there, possibly part of the complex. There's another shot of it, just another perspective area of the rebuild. And then this is a pretty crazy photo. I actually hadn't seen this one. McDonald's just in complete disarray, some of the windows blown out at it. And then you can see 10 years later, the McDonald's has been rebuilt. There was supposed to be a McDonald's that was going into the underground shopping mall. They were advertising for it, and you can see in a photograph the little advertisements for a new McDonald's with just a bunch of dirt over it right after the attacks. Kind of a chilling image there. This was about 19 days after the attacks, you can see. Looks like they've already got a bunch of cranes there for the cleanup. You can see the tridents in that image right there. Look at that. They got the spotlights out and everything, trying to go through all the rubble. And then about 10 years later, that is the rebuilt area. The trees at that point are planted. The memorial looks to be going up. And then this just incorporates the Statue of Liberty with the towers. I mean, the towers were just such a prominent part of the skyline in looking at so many of these photos. And then this would have been taken somewhere maybe in 2012, 2013 with the One World Trade Center going up, almost about halfway done, you can see. That's a weird way they build skyscrapers. It's like the bottom is already complete. I mean, obviously the bottom wasn't complete at that time because the interior wasn't, but like they have the entire siding up and the rest of the building isn't even complete. And then this is another interesting photo of Lower Manhattan with One World Trade Center being built. You can see at this point it's kind of just a stump sticking up, but it is being built. And then this is kind of the really cool thing. You can see the skyline in 1999. I mean, it just looks beautiful. Maybe it's because of the way the sunlight comes versus 2018. 2018, it's a little bit more built up, but obviously it's missing both the towers. It just has one. And then there you can see 2002, very barren in comparison. Personally, I think, the 1991 skyline looks the best just because it has both the towers, but the 2018 skyline definitely is more built up with the overall buildings. To me, it just looks better with identical towers overhead. Maybe that is because of the sunlight, I don't know, but either way, that's just something interesting there. Also, they added a bunch of new buildings to the left there. You can see they really built up that area right along the water in terms of that. And this is just construction timeline. You can see on the left, looks like they're midway through it. It did take a while to build up the entire memorial area and build up both the waterfalls and the pools. And then this is a cool image, 1970 versus 2012, three different massive skyscrapers being built, both the North and the South Tower, and then the new One World Trade Center in the span of 42 years. Imagine if they would have still had the Twin Towers and then they put another one up right next to it. I'm sure they didn't think they'd be building another massive skyscraper in the span, of 40 years, because you would think the towers would still be there to this day for sure. And there very likely would be upgrades to the towers. And at this point, I've speculated in the past, I do think they were already kind of hated. I saw a few more, posts and things in researching for this video. A lot of people really didn't like the towers. Just, they were certainly, their design was obsolete. There's no way buildings would be built like that today. That was a 1960s, 1970s skyscraper type design, and the only saving grace for the towers, and this is why I speculated under the hypothetical, what if only one of them fell? What would happen to the other one? It would be a controlled demolition. They would take apart the tower, because the one thing the Twin Towers had going for them was there were two of them, and it's just so unique to have two identical skyscrapers located right next to each other. I mean, you get that. There are other Twin Towers in the world, but a lot of them have that gimmick sky-like bridge, which I think looks so bad, where it's attached over top. The idea of having two freestanding skyscrapers is just so unique, and we really haven't seen something to that scale again anywhere throughout the world, where it's 110 floors, two different skyscrapers that are identical looking, but they're really not connected. I mean, I guess you could say they're through the underground areas they were connected, but just in terms of them like having some type of sky bridge, again, I just think that design is so bad, and that's kind of why the Twin Towers were so unique, especially compared to the new One World Trade Center. And then even if they build a new Two World Trade Center, it's going to be some type of futuristic thing, although that probably will not happen. And then here are just some more before and after shots. You can see the Manhattan skyline at night. I don't know, in that image it just looks so much cleaner with the towers rather than the One World Trade Center, but that might also be the photos a little bit grainy with the new Freedom Tower, but kind of interesting to look at that. Again, the bottom is definitely built up more with more buildings surrounding the new One World Trade Center. Yeah, this is crazy. I don't know if anyone else knows, but well, I'm sure some people do know about it because I've seen it on the internet. The Burger King was turned into a headquarters following the attacks for the police, and you can see that's a nice Burger King. They got like steel or silver chrome exterior there in New York City. That's what it looks like now. This is Washington Street. The difference, you can see peeling it back. There is the Freedom Tower right overhead. That looks pretty nice, I'll be honest, just looking at it from there with the sun shining down onto it. You got the nice glass as well. And then this is the St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church. My goodness, what an upgrade they got. Their church doesn't even look anything like it did. There it is. It got absolutely crushed by the towers, obviously, when they collapsed. And the new one, it was a very intricate design. It cost a lot of money. Some of the renderings are pretty crazy. And then there's another perspective of the skyline from the Brooklyn Bridge. Not really a fan of this one. It doesn't have the exact same area. It's like when you're comparing a before and after, you want it to be the same, like right where the photo was taken. Otherwise, it kind of looks weird. But either way, those are just some different before and after shots of the towers. You had the skyline with the towers. You had the short period with no huge tower in the financial district when they were deciding on what they wanted to do. There was the idea, rebuild them, build, different designs. I have videos on that. But they decided to go with the One World Trade Center and then possibly someday build a completely different Two World Trade Center. I do know there are people that want them to build an identical Freedom Tower, so just like another version of the Twin Towers, but with the Freedom Tower. Yeah, I'm not sure how well that would look. I've seen different renderings of it. Kind of looks out of place to me just because it's like if you're going to build identical buildings, they have to be very simplistic. If they're both, oddly shaped, it just looks weird. I don't know, aesthetically, but either way, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.